Mabuhay.
Kamusta?
Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about something that gets very confusing for a lot of people, and that is, what does it cost to live, to move, to retire here in the Philippines, especially in 2022 when much of the world is gripped with massive inflation. And it is different. It is quite a bit different here as it is in the Western world. When we were visiting in Florida and then South Carolina to visit my mother, and we were going up through South Carolina and Georgia and all that, and gas stations there were offering $20 an hour just to get people to work there, and still having problems, by the way. And that's a minimum. It had a bunch of bonuses.
That was like starting at $20
Right.
US dollars.
Right, exactly. And keep in mind, the federal minimum wage in the United States is $7.25, and I believe South Carolina was the same. So that's almost triple the same price, or triple the cost of for the employers. And so never mind governments printed trillions of dollars during the pandemic, all that stuff. You also had every single business out there having to pay 3 times as much for labor. So you can imagine they have to raise the prices dramatically, and they have everywhere. And so things that are brought into the Philippines from the Western world, that kind of thing, of course carry these new costs. And so yes, things have cost a lot more money here, especially like energy costs when it comes to electricity or anything that are, where they're buying fuel or oil. When you go pump at the gas station, they have all skyrocketed. But there are a lot of things that didn't, because those same things that happened there, where people being paid during the pandemic $2,000 a month to stay home, or more in some cases, for people that worked part-time and only made a few $100s before the pandemic, they weren't interested in going back to work. Well, that didn't really happen here. Here they were given a little bit of money, but it was just enough to buy some food and stay alive. So when it unlocked and everything started to go back to normal, people wanted to go back to work. They flooded back to work. People are dying to find good jobs. And so you don't see that big inflation that comes with the labor. So that set aside, let me give you an idea of what things can cost, and it all really depends on how you want to live. We've shown you our house. You can check out that video. We'll put it over here. I think it's in this corner.
Somewhere.
Yeah, it's one of these corners. We're going to put it in here, where we give a house tour, and we pay 20,000 pesos a month, so $400 US a month, for this beautiful 3-bedroom house. We are living on one of the most expensive islands here in the Philippines, Boracay, which is known around the world for its amazing, beautiful beaches.
Exactly. It's very pretty.
Exactly. But it does matter where you live, even on this island. You may not want to live with the locals like we do. And we choose to live here, like I said, with the locals. Local life makes a lot more sense. You move to the Philippines, you want to ingrain yourself into local life and get used to Philippines customs, Philippines food, which is more cost effective, by the way. I don't know if long-term living like a resort life is not just going to get boring after a while. That's not real life. This is my own opinion. Maybe you'll think otherwise.
Yeah, you don't really get to know your neighbors.
Exactly. You don't get to know your neighbors, and people are often there one week and gone the next because, well, they're just here on vacation. So for a longer term, moving here permanently sort of thing, we obviously will recommend you find a nice local neighborhood, great neighbors, great families to surround yourself with, and you're going to save a lot of money. But it's not even just the money, it's honestly the people. Eating and dining is obviously going to be a lot cheaper in the local neighborhoods. The stores here are going to carry products that are more affordable. A lot of Filipino made foods are offered here, grown, raised, those kind of things. When you go down to the resort areas like we have here at White Beach, the restaurants are going to be very expensive, often the same prices you see in the United States.
Yes.
So what you pay for on a beach in Florida at a restaurant, you're going to pay for at some of these high-end places. And especially if you want American type foods, if you want that juicy steak, well, that might cost you $80 or $90. We've seen them as much as $200.
Yeah, that was
so,
a little
yeah, that was a little ridiculous. But on average, 3,000 to 4,500 pesos for a relatively 10-ounce good-sized steak, I guess you would call it. You're not going to find any 26-ounce type steaks or anything like that, like you find in Texas. And so that's, oh, sorry, that's our cat interrupting us over there, coming for a walk. And wait a minute, I recognize you guys. And so yeah, it is going to be much different. When we go down here to the local restaurant, they made 2 hamburgers, 2 shopaos, 16 chow mains, which was enough for both of us to eat, and it was only 160 pesos.
Yeah.
$3.20. Get prepared if you were down on White Beach and at one of these fancy restaurants, or even when you were in Manila, to pay that much for one of your fancy drinks.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's not cheap.
no, it's not. It's not. So when you're determining like what kind of life you want to live. Oh, hello. So when you're determining what kind of life you're going to live here in the Philippines and what you can afford, you have to keep these things in mind. Are you willing to adopt the Philippines lifestyle?
Yeah.
Are you going to eat Filipino food? Then yes, it's going to be very, very inexpensive. Are you going to want to go bar hopping and go to all the fancy restaurants all the time?
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very expensive. It's going to be the same.
Up.
Yeah, that's right. It's going to be the same as if you were back home in the Western world. So that is going to make a big impact. Which, by the way, the hamburgers are actually really, really delicious, but very, very messy. Very messy. And now let's take a look at another one. This one is 35,000 pesos, again, at the back beach, but it's 3 stories tall. You got to pay utilities in addition to that, so that would raise the price pretty significantly. But it is, as you can see, at $700 a month, a very affordable place comparative to what you might pay in the Western world. And you live right by the beach. Pretty amazing.
Pretty nice.
Yeah, really, really nice. But then again, there are people here on the island and making videos saying they live on $450 a month total expenses. Others say $1,000. Some say $3,000, $5,000. And it all depends on how you want to live. And you can still do it. Inflation isn't that big of a deal when you're talking from North American standards to here. For locals, inflation is hitting them hard. They got to buy gas for their motorcycle or for their trike.
Yeah,
and
to get to work, everything.
Exactly, and that's doubled their costs there. If any imported foods, it's doubling their costs there. So that is affecting them quite a bit. But for somebody who's looking to retire from an area where inflation has already hit extremely hard, coming here, I wouldn't use inflation as a reason not to come here at all.
Right.
The biggest thing for you is, how do you want to live? We have a whole video on this, on $1,200 a month budget. Now that doesn't include when we do crazy trips and stuff like that,
yeah.
right? Where we make YouTube videos for them. It's like a business expense towards revenue type thing. But for the most part, our life when we're home, that is our monthly cost. So it is reasonable to say, $1,100, $1,200 in our opinion, if you're willing to live local, do a lot of local cooking, local eating, that kind of thing, and stay away from the pricey restaurants that can cost you just as much as if you went to a place in Florida on the beach.
Air conditioning is probably one of our biggest costs.
Yes, it is. A friend of ours just had his electricity bill come in at 17,000 pesos. He only has a smaller apartment, like not big like our house. So we were quite shocked at that. We were away 2 weeks last month, and our electricity bill went from 10,000 a month down to 4,000 pesos a month. So we're not really sure what it would have been because we were gone 16 of the days. So
yeah,
that's going to be a big cost factor for you. Not so much your rent, but what are the utilities cost? But if you're good with just a fan and you're from a hot climate, can you handle it?
If you're already used to this kind of weather, then you're laughing.
Yeah, you would be laughing. But we think it's absolutely beautiful here. We're 100% on board. We think the Philippines is one of the most glorious, beautifulest. Is that a word?
No, but
no?
we can go with
Can
it
we make
anyways.
that a word? Let's just make it a word. Places in the world to live. The cost factor is still really, really good, especially when you consider how much it's gone up everywhere else. And so, yeah, if you're ever interested in looking for something very specific, hey, what are the costs of this or that, you feel free to write us. We'll tell you what we know, and if we don't know, maybe we know somebody that does know. But yeah, I think this is still a good time to come here. Inflation isn't going to drive you away from retiring here in the Philippines. If anything, it should drive you to the Philippines and away from the Western world. So that's it. Just a little video here. We have lots of videos on telling you what the cost of grocery shopping is, what our monthly expenses are, showing off what kind of house we have. We have so many videos that could help you, and hopefully they do. And we'll see you guys all very, very soon. Take care.
Farewell. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.